Hi everyone, I am Tara, aka Spirit Mother, and I would like to welcome you all back to my channel on YouTube, Spirit Teachers of on TikTok, so I'm also live on my Facebook. If you're new to my channel, I always recommend, suggest, and really encourage you to read the description of the YouTube channel, Spirit Teachers of to get a better understanding of what it is that I do bring forward. Now, what I'm going to do today, and I don't usually do it, but I'm going to go in to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to read that description for you, okay? And you might get a better now, I don't know if my internet is going to go down or not because they're doing some work in the house, changing some lights and what have you. So, power goes down, I'll just have to come back in again. So, the description of my YouTube channel. Okay, hi everyone. I am Tara, aka Spirit Mother, and I am here to wake people up to see how we've been treating each other and our earth. I'm a unique type of spirit guide. I am a psychic, medium, a channeler, a telepath, and an empath, and more. I also speak in 5 different languages, all of which can be very intense at times. And I just saw that glitch in the matrix. On my channel, I talk about everyday life, the ignorance, greed, the hatred, etc. I do it to get people to look within themselves and how we have been acting in life towards ourselves and others, including the animals, basically the life itself. Some people may not like what I have to say, whereas others may totally understand. Sometimes I may come off not a very spiritual person. However, I ask you to look within and see what spirituality really means. It is the enlightenment, waking up to the truth, the good, the bad, the ugly stuff that we don't like to see about ourselves, about the world, and others. Sometimes we need a little tough love to be able to look within yourself. I am unit conscious. Spirit. Basically, like I said, I speak different things. And I didn't learn this stuff anyway. Spirit just started, the remembering and just channeling. Hi. Welcome in. Okay. So, as some of you are aware, my channel does, like it said, it gets very intense. You'll like me, hate me, love me, loathe me, that's okay. And I'll make you laugh, I'll make you cry, I'll piss you off, and you'll even want to punch me upside my head. But I say, hey, keep your hands to yourself and bring it energetically. Now, I have the other day, yesterday, Thursday, I was in and I was talking about history and the blame game. Okay. And today I'm back in again, okay, with history and the blame game part 2. And the reason why is because I dug deeper, okay, because people get irritated with what I bring forward, okay, because you probably think you're just racist, you're this, you're that. No, you don't know me then. Okay. Now I was looking, and the reason why I was looking is because there's a lot of this telling people you're on stolen land, you're on stolen land. How many have you actually dug deep into it? Okay, you say it was European settlers, when it was actually not the European settlers. I looked into that. It was more the British crown. Okay, Edward Cornwallis. That's when it really gotten. And I said in my last one about in 1756, that was when the 7 Years' War started. Okay, and the British and the French have had a beef with one another for a very long time. Okay, now what people aren't getting is you only go with one narrative. You never look any deeper. I found let's see, in his name. Silas Tertius Rad from 1810 to 1889. And he kept a record. Now, when I was looking through my research, like checking everything out and asking the questions and what have you, I asked like with regards to the Mi'kmaq community. Okay, you say 10,000 years, what have you? Okay, and you say we're on stolen land. Now, what I found was quite interesting. Okay, because how can the Mi'kmaq, what have you, say that we are on stolen land when they actually originally stole the land from somebody else? I have it right here. That Silas read. Okay. So when I looked into it, this was quite interesting because it says, and like I said, it's going to irritate a lot of people. We're not on stolen land. If we're on stolen land, sorry, Mi'kmaq and Mi'kmaq people, you too are on stolen land because your ancestors stole the land first. But you don't look into that. You go by a general narrative, right? Okay. Well, based on anthropological, archaeological, and genetic evidence, the ancestors of the Mi'kmaq, along with other indigenous peoples of America, are believed to have originated in northeastern Asia. Okay, so you came from Asia. And I said that in a previous video. It's like, you're going to come at me energetically. It's like, whoa, parece como tá isso, não é? Feels good, isso, especially Siberia, the Alpine region. Okay, not Siberia. Okay, my letters are like it's very small. They migrated from this region into North America across the Bering Land Bridge into Alaska, likely during the last ice age. Okay, so you're saying 10,000 years ago. Just stay with me, before you get irritated with me and fuck off and say that, you're fucking wrong. Okay. Here are the key details regarding their origin. Migrate route, following the Virginia crossing, the ancestors of the Mi'kmaq and the Aborigine speaking peoples traveled across North America, conquest, eventually settling in eastern woodlands or Mi'kmaq. Yes. No? The Maritime, okay, the Maritime provinces. Not right now, I'm lying. I will come up. Okay. Maritime provinces, Canada, Gascony, Peninsula of Quebec, and parts of the time immortal. The Mi'kmaq oral tradition and archaeological evidence place them in their traditional territory for over 10,000 years. Okay, we all know that, right? But the next part is where it gets interesting. Alternative migrant theory. Some 19th century accounts record the early Mi'kmaq territory from the west, displacing previous inhabitants known as the Kwedechk. I will spell it Kwedechk. Okay. Yes, but see, they don't put that in the mainstream. Okay, and okay. So I looked up this person. Okay, and displaced. Okay, Okay, let's see, what does displace mean? Okay, what does displace mean? So displace it, okay? Displacing these people. So I looked it up and it says, take over the place, position, or role of someone or something. Cause something to move from its proper or original place. Force to leave their home, typically because of prosecution or natural disasters. Okay. So, I looked over, and on Nova Scotia Strong, Peter Burrian wrote it's spelled KWE with the thing on the top, DE with the thing on the top, CHK. People may have been here before the Mi'kmaq. According to the Mi'kmaq oral traditions recorded by Silas T. Rand, R-A-N-D, in the 19th century, can't pronounce the name, were described as the original inhabitants. So, how exactly can you say that people stole the land if you stole it? But were displaced. Story recount the origin of the war between the two groups. Okay. Okay, so I went into the military history. Okay, and in here it spells it Kwedech. Okay, Mi'kmaq war. Tradition indicates that there was war in the 16th century between the St. Lawrence Pequots and the Mi'kmaq. The great Mi'kmaq chief led his people. The conflict was eventually settled through a peace treaty after the Mi'kmaq were successful in removing the Kutchwe out of the Americans. Remember, I said, like, people are talking about white people, and I will bring that up because I thought, I have it because it really fucking irritates me. You listen up, white people. You know, Gesanotori elechetuburi shlechituburikium, echetuturiki eretesere etukri ai alnuto hanway. Okay, so now I will go here. Okay. The Kudria, can't pronounce it, also spelled, and then for, the name, okay, are described in 19th century Mi'kmaq oral tradition recorded by Silas T. Rad as an indigenous people were inhabited parts of Nova Scotia and the Atlantic region before being displaced by the Mi'kmaq. They are often portrayed in legends as being driven away after long periods of conflict. Okay, now let me see. Okay, you say about white people were the minority, not the majority. We're the minority. Okay. Now, you say with regards to barbaric, I said that in 1756, my seventh grade granddaddy was scalped by Edward Cornwallis and some of the indigenous Indians who Edward Cornwallis was actually paying to go around and scalp people. It was called a bounty. or what was it? Um, Bounty. Okay. So now let's get to the part of with regards to how the Indians would react, okay, when they got a kill. It was very more animalistic because they take the scalps from whoever they, took the scalps from, and they set them on a stick, and they go on the horses, and they make their sound. Okay? Because they would do that. So, hey, you want to take offense to that, good. You do what you please, because you're going to anyways. Because I'm talking about, the part of the stolen land and the indigenous and, even the loyalists, all the people that came and said that we stole the land. If you look up with regards to Nova Scotia, Europe, and Africa were actually connected. A lot of people, like I said before, they're saying about the Rh negative. Where did it come from? It came from European settlers. It came from Europe. It came from Africa. Okay, and what do it's the part where they say the bloodline of Mary Magdalene and Jesus Christ. Okay, so am I going in that? Yeah, because it's part of what this is all about. It's the part of, people only look at one part of something and you don't continue to look at the rest because, it's easier to go with a narrative. Key details regarding the Kawachika Chick include historical presence. Original traditions suggest the EWEDECHK were in the region, including parts of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, prior to the arrival or dominance of the Mi'kmaq. So, how exactly can you say that the European settlers stole the land and that the people that are on stolen land if your ancestors did the same thing? And then, Chief Seattle, Seattel, I believe it's spelled, Chief. He said that, no one owns the land. But, people, it'll be okay. Keep going. Conflicts with Mi'kmaq. Stories indicate that the Mi'kmaq pushed the Kuakiki, can't pronounce it right. Excuse me if I pronounce it wrong. Go look into it yourself. Out of their territories, with some accounts suggesting the Wikwis, or can't pronounce it, were driven west. Culture context. They appear in various legends and take sometimes associated with specific geographical locations or in accounts of, for instance, kidnappings and revenge. It's you want to make others be the aggressor. That's the part where you have the blame game. But they don't teach you this part in school, right? Why not? Let's see. Because in the 17 late 40 mid 1700s, the Mi'kmaq chiefs, before they even came here, they made the agreement, there would be trade and everything like that. But you don't take into account that it was your own leaders. Okay, but you keep saying that people, like white people and other people. It just seems like you're saying the white people are the ones who stole the land. Okay, I don't care who likes me and who don't. So there with the kidnappings and revenge, what like shit balls going on right now, okay? Because when the Europeans come over, mm, you say the Europeans were doing this to the kid, doing this to people and kidnap and everything like that. But hey, the indigenous were doing it too. They were going back and forth. So it's seeing both sides and taking accountability. But that's the thing. People want to steal up with reconciliation, but you don't want to see the truth that you too stole that identity. Well, some historical interpretations suggest they might have been related to the Mohawk or other Iroquoian peoples, Iroquoian peoples. They are primarily known in this context through the lens of Mi'kmaq folklore. That's the same as, you say about the giants, and you say about this, and you say about that. Well, did you know, like, think of it this way, when you look at Enoch, what does Enoch really mean? Enoch means the era of the Anunnaki. Don't they, like, you know, that's, whether people know that or not. Hey, now, so this guy who, oh, okay. So now we're going to go to land acknowledgements often ignore history. Veritas Foundation for Public Policy. This was in National Lawrence Caucus, National Post, February 23rd, 2025. We should avoid creating mythology and special regulations or coverage that may have no basis in fact. Where is it? See, I remember the first time this is what I'm reading. I remember the first time I heard a statement at a public event along the lines of this building is located on traditional unceded Aboriginal land. It is in Australia, and it stuck me as deterrent, simplistic, and characterizing. Can't read that well, then say I could. If the people making this statement really felt that badly about the land they and possibly for forebears lived and worked on for generations and essentially stole, then they would reasonably choose to give the land back along with the all they had built upon it. However, the people were uttered such statements, including recognize that the country they inhabit and the land they live and work on is decently connected to the land occupied or colonized early by groups related as indigenous. Moreover, the land acknowledgements has also skipped over the reality that in some nations treaties cover part or all of the territory. Canada and New Zealand as examples. They go on to say, and given primacy to the more activist indigenous groups, institutions and governments around the world repeatedly express their willingness to not only change history, but also to ignore scientific evidence as well. See, the thing is, okay, people will say that, you went in and and the European settlers found stuff and they stole it and claimed it as their own. Well, how do you know that Mi'kmaq didn't do the same to that other group of people before they got here? Because that's the thing you don't look at. Okay, you don't like me for this. That's fine. Maybe some of you just tune me out, but that just goes to show your true ignorance. You stick with something that it's been beat into your head, and that's like you always have the ones telling the story, right? Okay, you always have the victim mentality. Okay, but the ones who a lot of the time who like to play victim, they too themselves was a victim, right? And then it's like getting butthurt because you stole from someone else, so karma bit you in the ass. But you can't steal land because, as the chief said, no one owns the land. Many even in the Hopi prophecy, he even said like no one owns the land. We don't live off the land or on the land. We live with the land. I get a lot of dirty looks. So when I go out anywhere and, hey, stop saying about truth and reconciliation if you're actually not going to look at your own truths. It's like the folklore, okay? They have a lot of different, if you look at all of the different said to be folklore came from truth if you don't realize that. They had to say it was like a folklore, so that they didn't have to take responsibility for the actual truth. Where is it? However, the people who utter such statements okay. In giving primacy, okay, I was there. They go on to write, I live in Prince Edward Island and regularly attend musical and theater events here. Every show begins with someone coming out to recruit to recite their indigenous Mia Popra. But last time I heard the phrase, it was slightly different and absurd. I heard that the Mi'kmaq, the indigenous tribe with deep roots in the province, had been here since time immemorial. Since that event, I have begun to hear more extreme versions of this prescribed mantra, which time immemorial replaced by the beginning of time. While time immemorial can legally refer to any time before 1189, the claim that indigenous people have been on the land since the beginning of time is historical and scientific nonsense. See, what is it? They say the earth is 4 billion years old. Do you realize how long this place has been inhabited by people of all types? And they were actually the cause. You say the giants. You say the Anunnaki. You say Lemurian, Atlantis people. Okay, but somehow a lot of things just don't make sense because you're so angry at others when they come forward and say, hey, that's like, we didn't steal the land at all. Because, like, the part of how can you steal land from someone who already stole the land? So I go, like, I've been to the Truth and Reconciliation 2 years in a row. I don't know if it's because I'm a blonde white lady or what, but I had a lot of dirty looks. I even had a professor from St. University. He sat up in front of the people and he said that he would discourage white people because white people don't know the thing about the thing about spirit. Really? Like I said before, I'm more connected to spirit than most of you. You can't say that somebody took your language because, you still could have spoken. You have to remember how to and, start speaking it and stop blaming others because you don't speak it anymore. Because, like, you know, French, German, they all ended up in the same boat if they didn't speak English. Well, some archaeologists date the earliest migration of hominoids into North America via the earliest trade as far back as 12,000 to 15,000 years ago. The feature is still on the fig- figure is still uncertain. Archaeologists' evidence in Nova Scotia, meanwhile, place the earliest human activity in the Maritimes at around 10,000 years ago. However, between then and 5,000 years ago, there was no evidence of human presence at all. Research from 1870s suggests that Mi'kmaq believed they had immigrated from the West, okay? And as I said earlier, they actually came from Asia, which Nova Scotia was actually connected to parts of Asia. That's here. Allow me. Heavy bunker. Okay, here in my hand, I have an interesting picture. Okay, I bought it for my ex-husband for his birthday a couple of years ago. Okay, but now I know why I actually bought it. Okay, okay, let's come up here. Okay, anybody? See that? Hold on. Let's try this. I'm gonna go back there. Okay, you see it? Oh well, shit! I made it worse. All you can see is the computer. Okay. Okay. So as you can see, two maps, and look at the land masses. Okay, they're all kind of close to you now. So, how can you say you can't say that the land was stolen? What you can say, but you'd actually be wrong because you can't like okay. What if you Because I'm not often here before you know, and it's you know, from my understanding, the further away you get, okay, or what have you, this is huge shit. It actually, like, I feel like crying and throwing up all at the same time, especially after finding 5, okay, 10,000 years ago, inhabitants. Okay, 1871 suggested that the Mi'kmaq believed they had migrated from west, which I said Asia, which that's where it was, and that they weird with people already on the island, warred with people already on the island, recorded tribal traditions pointed to another group called Quiddiquid, don't know if they pronounce it better, as the original inhabitants. So, I'll ask again, when are people going to take accountability for their own part of things? We're going down this rabbit hole together because I didn't read this stuff. Spirit brings me to it, and as I read, Spirit will tell you if it's bringing forward whether it's truth or not. Because when my body starts reacting to it, it's like, why would you get so fucking irritated with it? I'm not like, hey, we were not savages. Okay, we weren't savages. Well, actually, your ancestors were, because they were the ones that were skeptical, and hey, they were doing it in the mid 1700s for Edward Cornwallis, because hey, you had to have the bounty, but you say the white people are greedy, you say we're privileged, and what have you, and like I said, and I'll say it again, the biggest privilege is to be able to have free food and say that you clean the waters, but yet that chief Seatold said that you can't own the water, you can't own the land. And that's coming from your own traditions, your own belief systems, right? But you'll say that we colonized you, that you benefit from everything, which we just built we built what we were told to build and hired for, right? So hey, like me, hate me, love me, boy, I don't care. Oral history are notoriously unreliable. But it is telling that in traditions recorded 150 years ago, when the need to connect inhabitation and the land, the time world was less pressing. The Mi'kmaq themselves recognized what archaeology now tells us to be true. Normally, that North American inhabitants migrated from the west, and moreover, the Mi'kmaq territory. Oh, okay. So, so Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll take you to a lesson which I don't know if you any of you learned in school about Genghis Khan, right? Oh goddamn! Oh, yeah. Right? Okay, Genghis Khan. He was Mongolian, right? He was from Eastern Asia. Well, Asia, right? Mongolia is because I looked where is Mongolia located, and it said Mongolia is a large landlocked country in East Asia, situated between Russia to the north and China to the south, covering much of Mongolia, platelet, and known for its vast Siber's mountains and the Gobi Desert. Okay, so Genghis Khan was Mongolian, and what did Genghis Khan do? He liked to conquer, right? Woo-hoo, let's get a move on. Woo-hoo, let's go. Let's go. Right? Thank you. You're helping me move it. Am I psychotic? Oh well, that's your perception. But you have no fucking idea, right? Because you don't know what you're witnessing. You're witnessing spirit. I said the surrender, and some people would say, "Oh, well, that's demonic," or that stuff is of the devil. But yet you say the Bible was written by God through people. So, okay, now we'll take you back to 2020. Okay, it was after I died in 2019. I told you all that, and then in 2020, Easter time, the night of the supermoon, I got flashed with the light. I got a right between the fucking lookers because I'm all for God's help. After, on a spiritual plane, they were trying to fucking rape me and tear me apart. And, the one at the couch looked a lot like a Mongolian man, probably took the size of what you would foresee Genghis Khan. Get the bullet, I'm missing away. I should away. My ex-husband's son's going to think I'm a raging lunatic, but that's okay. Believe me, I know how I look, and I know how I sound. Galito Korea Moise. Assunto Brescia, Urias Comoreda. Today, Carisam. What? What was wrong? Galito Korea, Risito Moise, Okay, so going there. So, what did Genghis Khan do? Genghis Khan said, okay, we're going to divide the land. I'm claiming the land. We're going to divide it. And then you're going to work for us. You're going to pay for food. You're going to do this. Hey, we're the government, right? Oh, thank you. Listen, feels good. Like, I may look retarded, but hey, what's a little humiliation? Yeah. Okay, let's go. Okay, Genghis Khan. Okay, because he was a brute, right? And like I said, there's pictures, look up. The indigenous say we're not savages, but you're just as much savage as the next person with the fucking rifles. We just don't cut off people's scalps anymore. But see, that's where certain individuals are able to get away with stuff because, you claim victim. Well, you stole our land. Well, you stole the land first. So how can you be on stolen land? Anybody. And that woman at the Grammy Awards or whatever the fuck what she said. Like they said that, she's on stolen land, but she's fine with that. But, that's neither here nor there. But the thing is, it's a part of when she said, how can you be illegal on stolen land? Okay. But put it this way. How can someone say that someone else stole the land when they originally stole the land? But you won't look at that way because you're ignorant. Better go back and get your fucking history books. Truth and reconciliation is profitable for your governance, for the indigenous community, and for white man's governance. Let's go. Let's go in here. Okay, we're going to go to that woman that said, I didn't finish listening to her because when she said, basically, listen, white people, but we're somehow the racist ones. And do you know, I actually have indigenous, my great Grammy was native. My seventh great granddaddy was native. His son was native. They married. My sixth great daddy married a Low. And the Low family will say they're Indian and hey, wait, I'll use a thing. I know someone that, their in-laws will brag about, oh, well, we get this and we get that. And, maybe you should have it taken away from you because you're too privileged for it. Because if you're putting in someone else's face, you're just as ignorant. Because you're saying, ha ha, we get free food. So no, I like with truth and reconciliation, until you actually face your own fucking truths, I will not agree that truth and reconciliation is something you guys are actually seeking. Another guy, he was saying about things, and he called white people a cracker. What, you're going to say, you're calling those idiots? Well, that's because that's what you were before, politically correct came into play. Talk about ignorant. So, if people want to go and they want to look at me, but I mean, I will say one thing, I went to bingo last night. I don't go anywhere you want, I took a bit of money because I don't go too far, I don't go to movies, I don't go anywhere. So I went out to bingo with my sister. Okay? And it was on the reserve in one of the buildings. Okay? See, with regards to gambling, you probably do see more white people in many cases, okay? Because let's see, when I went there, I seen very few indigenous natives. It was mostly older white people wanting, sometimes it's to go, but most of the time it's hoping to win something, okay? Because, some will sit there, well, I'm not getting anything, or well, I'm sad. It's like, okay, yes, we are. But do you know that they're working together? Why do you think they put gambling on reserves, right? You think they put it there for your benefit in hopes that you'll win money? Fuck no. They put it there in hopes that they'll take your money. And there was another woman. She's Santa Marino, or what have you, the beliefs, or what have you. But she also does like tarot cards and psychics and what have you. Okay, and I looked into that, and it was like the Catholics in Mexico. We're over there. And she was a natively. She said, she sees the story of the Bible, much like me, like it's and is all of it accurate? Not likely, because they always manipulate the narrative. Like the Mi'kmaq and Micmac manipulated the narrative of who actually was here before them. Like they say, the one who conquers is the one who writes the story, and they claim themselves to be heroes. How exactly is killing people and taking their land make you a hero? Hmm. And hey, I'm saying you did it. So you're a little hypocritical if you say, which the New European settlers didn't actually take it. The British took the land, like perceived to have taken the land. But it was all about free trade and education because your leaders wanted you to have education. So, they were part of it. And, hey, the Catholic Church and, a lot of the indigenous belonged to the Catholic Church, correct? But you'll say now we had no religion. Well, some of you did. The Henry Cohen Hayat. I have to go is like a music. You have to go here, not? I go is one. You have to do it. So to that professor, you call yourself a professor? When you discourage people to take your class because they don't look like an Indian or African American, or sorry, Native American, even African Americans for some. But right now, we're talking about the indigenous because that's what the truth and reconciliation is more so about. See, why aren't you asking your leaders as to why they haven't done anything? People say that they were going into the okay. Now, so this, you're in a school. What school? What school has a group of bullies, right? Kids get bullied and picked on, right, by their peers. So is it possible, that the kids that got thrown in the infirmary, may not have been the actual teachers or what have you, and had been the children doing it to each other? Because, like I said, I knew a guy when I went to school, and his own brother threw him in a fire, the wood stove at that, and they were indigenous. So please, before you go in and say that European settlers stole your land, maybe you should actually go deeper into your own history. And I'm talking about all people. And I even looked up Indians in France because, like I said, we were Indians. Here you are. Weird. Let's turn you around. Yes. This lady here. Yeah, this isn't to shame people. This is to say, I'm going to come forward and I'm going to reply. I didn't watch it all the way through, when she said, listen up, white people, and not those words, but let's do it again. That's sorry, I correct you. So my question is, when are you going to deal with your part of it and take accountability? Let's keep going. This is the first one. There are three. Whiteness is made up. Here's the truth. White people didn't exist at all until rich colonizers needed a way to protect their power. For the 1600s, there was no such thing as white people. There were Italians, Germans, Irish, French, all different, all often fighting. Italian, French, and But what happened was when Europeans started stealing native land and enslaving Africans, what happened is that the rich white people thought, oh shit, you know what? Actually, there was, a lot of the African Americans that were the rich, wealthy elites. You just got done saying that, white people didn't come about until the 1600s. So who exactly was doing that before that? What color, like who were the people that were going in, in 1100s and 1000s and what, like, so how exactly are you blaming it on white people? What, you're saying wealth only came about like in the 1600s? And it actually wasn't, I'll say it again, it wasn't the European settlers. It was Edward Cornwallis and his people who showed up in 1749, a year to 2 years prior to the European settlers coming in, that did the building and that was forced to live on George's Island in treacherous weather, malnourished and everything, just to build their underground tunnels. Do you get that? Let's keep playing this woman because I find her very interesting. You're sitting there and what's your ethnic background and why are you using a filter? How about you show your face like I do? Hiding? Poor Europeans might band together with the people being oppressed, so they invented whiteness. Whiteness is not a biological reality. So you call us crackers? Man-made construct. It was a promise from the rich colonizers to everybody else that would always be just a little bit above everybody else. You got land and you got okay. Which colonizers? Oh, wait a minute. You're saying that white man didn't come about until whiteness didn't come about until the 1600s, but yet the Egyptians were actually brown people and they were colonizers. What's going? Yeah. Seriously, how fucked up does that sound? How fucked up do you sound when you say shit like that? How far back in your history did you actually go? Or are you just going with the mainstream because you think it's the narrative and it's fucking cool? Oh, we'll get a lot of views and ratings for this. Hey, come subscribe. Don't forget to like, share, and, hit the subscribe button. What the most of I so the body cat I so the toys coma. Let's keep going, lady. You better go learn your history. Not being rude, but hey. Privileges. While everybody else got nothing. White privileges. Racial. White privileges. The biggest privilege to have is to be able to fish and hunt for your food any fucking time you want. And then everybody else got to go to the grocery store and they have to have a license in order to fish for food or fucking hunt for food when, why? Because your government profits off that, right? Is that part of the agreement? Because, your governance has been getting billions of dollars a year from the government, and you say that the government is taking it? No, the government is not taking it. The government is giving it to your leaders, who is then laundering it and keeping it from you, huh? But somehow white people have fucking privilege. I have to say, maybe it's that the white people are less racist than everybody else in the fucking world. Because, we did only come around in the 1600s. Do you hear yourselves? Seriously. Are you doing what? I didn't come here to play nice in a fucking playground full of goddamn fucking liars, cheats, and bullies. So you're quite hypocritical. But people say, oh, you think you're so good. You think you're better than everybody else. No. I do know when accountability is to be taken. So when are people actually going to look at what truth and reconciliation really means? It means looking at your own fucking truth too. But you don't want to do that. You just want to point fingers at the white people. Because that's what you're doing. You're all pointing fingers at the white people because of the really high elite assholes that come from every fucking color, Hey. But somehow it's all the white people's fault because, hey, we're the minority and, you always go after what doesn't fit in, right? So you put the blame on what doesn't fit in. You put the blame on the misfits because we don't look like you. Because our skin color is not the same. Because we don't believe the same way. We don't have the same religion. Hey, if you don't believe like we do, we're going to throw you out of the family. You're really godly people, right? And, you'll fucking kill people for the land. Doesn't matter what side, because you're all fucking doing it. You'll kill people for the land. You'll kill people in the name of God, in the name of religion. Okay? You think that people who sacrifice the children and other people in now-a-time days, you think that's barbaric, but yet, hey, you call Jesus Christ's crucifixion a sacrifice. Fucking idiots! Get to Muritigiyasadoya! And yeah, I did say idiots. Go look it up. You're fucking ignorant. I don't care if you believe in God or don't believe in God. Or if you believe in the biblical text or not. But don't fucking say about white privilege. Because, lady, you look almost a lot like you're white. Just because you got a bit of makeup on. Not being rude. Like people really need to fucking say, fuck you, fuck it. Fuck the governments. Because the governments are the ones that's keeping people fighting and saying, oh, the white people are privileged. Okay. Hmm. 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 No, we're not. No more privileged than you. You think that, okay, there's okay, you think of it this way. You say we are the minority. Okay. So there's less of us in high elite positions, right? Okay. Most of you are brown in color. Okay. So, it's right up there, right? So who is keeping you from getting the jobs? Because last I heard and realized, it was a lot of you guys of brown color who was bringing about businesses and not hiring the white people. Because a lot of, it doesn't matter if they're white, brown, orange, purple, green, black, it doesn't matter. You say about the government, okay, they're giving subsidized wages to the Native community. What happened there? Is that another one of the victim things, the victim mentality? Are you trying to put it like, it's like, you took everything from us, so we're going to take it from you, but we didn't. We integrated together. Everybody was getting along until, Edward Cornwallis decided to come in with his raids. And then, in Shelburne, and then John A. MacDonald come in and, hey, what the fuck did he start doing? He started getting people, his crew, to steal from others to blame it on the white people, right? Am I saying it because I'm white? No, I'm saying it to say, how fucking ridiculous does this all sound? When the Mi'kmaq, Mi'kmaq, however you refer, stole the land from somebody else prior to that. You were from Asia, so you were Genghis Khan's crew, which he was very barbaric. I'm not saying that white people aren't barbaric, but they learned certain things, the same as you learned certain things. See, for the money, the indigenous community didn't mind taking the bounty and going and scalping certain individuals to get that bounty, much like ICE, right? The Indian Patrol, patrolling their own people. But you'll say that was white man. Are you sure? Or is that what you were told? Let's keep going, lady. Miss, sorry, I don't mean to call you lady, but you are a lady. But, that was pretty ignorant of the way I said it. Much like you say, basically telling white people, listen up.
White people loyal to rich white people. And you see that still happens today. But biology, your skin color is 0.1%, 0.1% of your DNA. There is no white gene. You've been defending this paint shade like it's a bloodline. It's not. It's just a man-made construct. Okay, point 2. Here's the next slide. Ooh, this one's gonna be...
So if it's a man-made construct and white people weren't around, but somehow it's white people's fault because they became white, who made them white? See? Good day. Hey, here's your QAnon. But oh, wait, you're only allowed to ask certain questions, and you're not allowed to go anywhere above that. Because God forbid you do that, you might learn something. People can look at me wherever they go and think I'm an asshole. Well, I guess I took over for my ex-husband, right? But he can still be an asshole sometimes, but I guess I can be an asshole and a bitch. Because I just say things that, others, they want to say, but they're afraid to say it. They believe a certain way, but they're in doubt of it because, you got to fit in with the crowd because you don't want to be the target. And my clock's saying 111 right now. And, let's keep going, man. Or you're going to be like that 30-year-old woman that was talking to that Dean guy on here and say, oh, I'm not a man. I'm 30. Ma'am is just is a respectable term. But hey. Are they wieners running the countries? All of them are. And it doesn't matter what fucking color they are. Okay? There are good ones. And there are good white people. But you put everybody in the same boat, the same as white people will put certain individuals in the same boat. And it all has to do with ignorance and lacking in knowledge of it. Because nobody wants to go do the research because you believe what you learned in your classroom was all that is and was and ever will be. And, you get what? Okay, history class. Let's see. How many hours a week would you get in history class? Okay, it was a compulsory. So you'd get usually, you go 5 days to school. You have about 3 to 4 days where you get an hour of history. And then you're not allowed asking questions because, God forbid, you use your own fucking brain and intelligence, right? It's like that hijacking. I know people that will say, you're hijacking my brain. You're trying to hijack my brain. No. But that same person or people will try to hijack your brain and ask you to be their memories. They're the one to remember for them. That's a hijacking of the brain. Or when it's just too much, it's a hijacking of the brain. What you see in your media, your mainstream media, what you see in your history classes, that's just a tiny fraction. And even when you go to university and get your history major, you're still only receiving a fraction of it. Because you're only learning what they teach you in that history, and you're not so much going further beyond that because, you might actually learn something. Am I saying people are stupid? No, I'm saying that the system gives people that part of being stupid. It dumbs your brain down because there's much more than what you learn in school and, who picks the narrative. Teachers are given a specific thing that, that's all you're allowed to teach. And, they tell it like they make up their stuff and, hey, I don't care if you went to university. All the power to you. There are people that will say about people being geniuses and things like that. Okay. So you could take someone that's said to be a genius, okay, skipped a grade or, went to university, got a bachelor's, a doctor's, MD, what have you. And you say that, in the olden days, they might have had grade 2, but they knew how to do everything else. Like my 6th grade granddaddy, he was illiterate, but somehow he owned shit piles of land and was a farmer, a shipbuilder. And I'm not talking just the ones that, you go on the water with. He had a religious seal. Shit, hey. So when it comes to that part, like he and his family ended up being much of the rebels, the rebellions, the ones that go up against the system. Because see, the white man is who drove, or well, it said in records that the white man said that, you know, for my family, most of the, how did they put it? Because this would be talking about your family too, you know, if you're one of the European settlers, 9 chances out of 10, but very close to it. It has been quite impossible to list all of the descendants of the first Bigantin, born in Nova Scotia in 1754. Over the years, many of Jean's descendants have come from places to visit family members in Nova Scotia. It is reported that one man visiting said to his brother, all the Byzantines that were any good left Nova Scotia long ago. And his brother's quick retort, we got rid of a lot of the conceited ones that way, set them both to laughing. Okay. That was white man. Okay. Do you think that, you know, you don't have indigenous people that are wealthy, that they're part of the elite? You know, the indigenous, if you look it up, they were the Masons. And what do you say about the Freemasons? Sit with that. Dici con la moi, hein? Don't like what I got to say? You know, my channel's not for everyone. Hi. Okay, let's keep going. I didn't, you know, once I heard the white, I shut it down, and we're gonna go through this together.
Be a doozy for you. Still holding your hand. That God made white people superior. Sorry to tell you, he did not. Don't worry, I have receipts. The reason that white people believe.
Could you, like, we think that God made us superior, but who's the one acting like they're superior over everyone? You're claiming victim the same as a white person will claim victim with their heritage. You know, the Scottish people were enslaved. And she did say about the Scottish and, you know, other cultures prior to that. Ma'am, do you know how far back that goes? Do you know how far back that goes?
That is because of the twisting of two parts of the Bible, the curse of Cain and the curse of Ham. First, Cain and Abel. In Genesis 4, the short version is that Cain kills his brother and God curses him to wander the world, but he puts a mark upon him.
This is interesting.
That's it. No mention of skin color, no curse on his kids. But white preachers, centuries later, decided that curse, that mark, was going to be dark skin. That lie turned into the idea that black and brown people were cursed by God. What? And then, of course, white people needed biblical reason to be able to enslave people, so they used the curse of Ham. That's in Genesis 9, and the short version is that Noah gets drunk, Ham sees Noah, that's his son, he sees his dad naked, and Noah curses Ham's kids, saying that his descendants will serve others. And that's where you guys got slavery from. Still no race, still no skin color, but European slave traders said Africans were Ham's descendants. Boom, suddenly slavery.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, let's review this again, lady. Ma'am, sorry, excuse me. But you said white man didn't come about until the 1600s, okay? And you say the Egyptians, the pyramids were built by slaves. So if the white people weren't around then who exactly enslaved? Because when I looked up the skin tone of Egyptians, it was light brown to dark brown. So who enslaved who? What? Huh? Could you put cream? Morisi kadwe ay? Ate kudu re shalevri amor gusiare. Seriously, do you hear yourselves? Or does the matrix have you so fucking blinded to the truth that you're ignorant to it? Oh, right. You learned it in school and you got a major in history. Think of it this way. White man didn't come, okay, until the 1600s, okay, and you had the wars in China and Asia and, all that before that. So who exactly was fighting who? Because it sure the fuck wasn't the white people, was it? My channel's not for everyone. I'll make you laugh, I'll make you cry, and I'm even pissing you off, and I'm doing that right now. But that's fine. But if you're pissed off, it's because you're not hearing. And you're not actually going back and looking into shit yourself before you go micking off about white people being privileged. Who the fuck was privileged before white people come along in the 1600s? Holy crap! It's like, shit, man, shake it loose. Seriously. Do you hear yourselves? And I don't care what fucking color you are. I don't care what belief system you have. You're in the narrow-minded of it. Because everybody has to be a victim. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, orange, green, purple, brown, turquoise. Because it's easier to do the blame game and be a victim all the time. Just, so you can get I'm not being rude, but get your retributions. Get your privileges to be able to go hunting and fishing any fucking time you want and take as much as you want. And then say that the white man is fucking draining the oceans. How the fuck does that work? Get to burikatare, sino motokuri should to burikanoi. Go get a translator. Or wait, it's probably in your own fucking language. But oh wait, the white man beat our language out of us. Seriously? Do you know how fucked up that sounds? Fuck. How fucking old are you people? And you're teaching this to your children? I know white people who don't like black people are prejudiced against black people because a black person beat the shit out of them. So all black people are under that spell. Or under that, oh my goodness gracious, holy batshit. Like, that's all you see on here is people saying about, oh, this and that and this and that. And, oh, they did this and they did that. Fucking look at your own. love and light, love and light, love and light. Well, Christ didn't go around saying love and light, did he? Nor did Mary Magdalene, or any. Oh wait, Melissa's disciples were thieves, depressed people that you say have mental illness and they have psychosis. Now you call it psychosis when then it was a prophet, right? So because they're not in the Bible, you cannot do that. That's of the devil. Take that fucking devil shit and cram it right up your goddamn fucking hole. I was sitting here and I was channeling, and Spirit had me write it down. I'll get back to her. This is what I was channeling. Okay, different things. Okay, Enoch, era of the Anunnaki. Bala, which it's my 6th great granddaddy channeled through me one day. Come on, old man, give me my shit. Right there. It was June 24th. 4 years ago. Okay, at the top, I have 4 ones, and then creativity, shame, love, help. Okay. Did a lot of purging, self and home, in the past 24 hours. It feels good. Out with the old to make room for the new. And then I have break the sire, which is the father of the pain. Abundance for all. Home is where. And then it has Faily, Faily. I was looking that up. And love. So I'm going to look that up with all you here because, I'm trying to figure it out. And then I have God is love, love is God, love is the infinite energy, break the chains. And interestingly, what my 6th great granddaddy channeled through me was back off, Bula. I ain't taking your shit. Now, Bula. What I got from that, because I have channeled Ella. When I first started channeling, I was in my base. I was down here and I was watching the stove, and I took and felt like I had a wax mirror, so I went like that, and then all of a sudden it was like my finger went right in my ear. Ella thought it was funny. Okay, Allah, Bula is the bull Allah. That's what I got. You do what you wish with it. And in Genesis, what did they have in Genesis? It was a genocide on the giants, right? But you said it was because they were eating the people, which it actually wasn't because they were eating the people. It was because the giants were here first and had the gold and stuff. And, the humans got greedy. Do I believe in that the fairy tales has a lot of truth to them? You're fucking right, I do. People want to look at me crazy? Bring it on. Wouldn't be the first time. The sky. So they had to kill them, and many went in hiding. And you say about the flood. Well, where did that flood come from? Because, hey, how about you look on Greenland? Why do you think Donald Trump wants there? Because it has a weather machine that is very ancient. They say that the giants were stupid, right? Couldn't talk, right? And you said, they were the Cyclops. Do you know what the cyclop actually represents? The cyclop actually represents the opening of the third eye. That is the all-seeing eye. Not the eye Ra or the eye of Horus or what have you, but the actual all-seeing eye is when you see, and that becomes the psychic part of it. That becomes your prophet. You get the connection, but you'll say, only people like them, only prophets have that gift, and everybody else is demonic. Do you realize how fucked up that sounds? Seriously, do you realize how fucked up that sounds? What? Because somebody's questioning your narrative because they see something that the others didn't see? Or in actuality, maybe we are those people and, hey, we're just reminding ourselves. But people look at me like, oh my gosh, like you really need some help. Like you're way off in the conspiracy theories. Really? The ones that say things are conspiracy theories are the ones that mostly want to hide the truth. Hey, ti sei letto Corano perché hai sito pure. Okay, so the other day, I thought I was getting the Quran Bible, but I didn't. I ended up with something else. And I got the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, but the biblical text, even the Ethiopian Bible, don't have Thomas in there. And hey, where'd it go? I have the Ethiopian Bible right here. I have the Torah right here. Because this is what it is. It's about land and all that, the stories, and she even said, like the biblical text, right? Hey, white people wasn't around. So who exactly was doing it all? But yet, modern times, it's a white, blame it on the white people. They're the minority. They're the ones that stand out the most, much like the giants, right? Did you know Noah was actually a giant albino? Do you know what albino is? He glowed, right? In different stories that said that, but you didn't catch that, did you? Because it was when he was born, much the same as you described Jesus Christ when he was born, glowing, right? Are you at my door? Okay. I guess you couldn't come out the other side. The Book of Thomas, Mary's message to the world. Some a bit of interesting things there. In here, in this book, Mary says about Jesus when they go into these homes where people are taking in. She tells them Jesus eats a lot and he drinks a lot. So take it like if a man could turn water into wine, as you perceived it to be, well, wouldn't he be an alcoholic? Maybe drinks a lot means he, like metaphorically, as could be drinking. But, the knowledge bringing forward, could be, has so much drinks the enlightenment, like the information, and it just constantly channels through. I know what that fucking feels like because I'm sitting here all the time channeling. Whether anybody can hear me or not, I'm sitting with spirit and I'm having a grand old conversation. And we laugh, we cry, we get pissed off. And sometimes I go around here when I get pissed off, I can feel my body. It just wants to jump out of itself and friggin' take and just smash everything in its path. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, part of the Zohar. I think I have, maybe I don't have the Zohar on the way yet. The Jewish mysticism. Oh, here's the Book of Enoch, but wait a minute, where is it? I have other stuff in here too with regards to health and things like that. Oh, the Gospel of the Egyptians, the Book of Enoch, deluxe collection, Enoch 1, 2, 3, with bonus Gospels of Judas, Mary, and Philip, Ancient Truths, and the Infancy Gospel. It's the Gospel. King James, a new translation. And see, do I read? No, it's more of a channeling because I'm going to get it straight from Spirit. Do I look into things that Spirit brings forward to me? Oh, yeah. And I want to thank a lot of you for triggering it. Because it's by watching where people are in their journey. It's by watching you and like people like her who wants to say that white people didn't come about until the 1600s, but somehow we are responsible for everything that's happening in the world. Call it a cop-out? Lacking in accountability? Like I said, I don't care if you like me, hate me, love me, and loathe me. I'll make you laugh, I'll make you cry, piss off. You want to punch me upside my head, but I say, hey, keep your hands to yourself, but by all means, bring it energetically. Mary Magdalene revealed, the first apostle, okay, the union of Isis and Thoth, and, they talk about the Emerald tablets, right? In different versions of your books, right? But somehow, through a perceived history that people say that white man didn't exist until such and such a time, somehow we are responsible for it? How does that work again? I'm allowed to question this stuff. But she says, saying about white people being racist and for don't deny it. With all due respect, miss, you're actually the one acting like a racist person. Because you're saying that white people didn't come around till the 1600s. Somehow we think we're privileged and that God put us here. Wait a minute. White people didn't exist till the 1600s, but somehow we're to blame for the mess that the world is in. We're the greedy ones. Wow. We must be awfully strong white people if we can take on the majority of the population. Or is it because, much like that person saying, about the Byzantines, the conceited ones. It's a family feud, right? Some people have depictions as Christ being brown, and some people have Christ as being white, and you say, oh, well, it was hijacked and stolen. Christ was white, or Christ was black. Okay, so Christ was black. And you say the stigmata of, they put Cain as being the one who caused destruction, and they put him as being a black man. But you depict Christ as being black. Sit with that, please. Really, hey, how about you sit with that? Or do you hear yourselves? Because I'm just repeating the stuff that you people say. But don't like me. I don't care. I'm not saying, go look. Well, I'd say go look into it yourself, but you'd rather not because as long as you can remain a victim and say, not being rude, but you get your rash or retributions, or I guess it's called retributions. And I did say, hey, everybody else gets retributions, and somehow white man didn't come around till the 1600s, and we're to blame for everything that's going on in the world, and we're the privileged ones. But you get free food. And then you blame white man for introducing alcohol to you when, hey, it actually was around way before white man came to Nouvelle-Écosse, because that's where everybody originally came to first. And then they migrated off. Hey. Oh, where did you get your, don't you think at university you don't know nothing? Really? No. Because I'll tell you right now, professors and university scholars and what have you, some of them don't know half of what somebody knows who didn't actually graduate from high school or go to university. Because you perceive somebody to be stupid if they didn't graduate. So somehow this woman is saying that it's all white man's fault. We're the privileged ones. Hey. I'm going to finish playing her, okay? Oh, and I even got, I have about the Chinese and China wars, Egypt. There were, apparently there was no white people then. So hey, who was fucking you over then? If it wasn't white people, because we didn't arrive until the 1600s. Do you really see how ridiculous that sounds? And like I said, I don't care if you like me or not. I'm tired of the ignorance. And I got that. The Secret Teachings of All Ages. That came today. It's a big bugger. Spirit guides me to get the books that I'm meant to get. 144 on the timer. So if any of you follow with regards to the 144, are you awake yet? Because it's a frequency. It's not the amount of people, like, Jehovah Witnesses. No offense to your religion, but you say only your people are going to heaven. And what was it that Spirit told me with regards to Jehovah? Ruin, disaster, or mischief. So who was ruin, disaster, or mischief? Well, that was Odin and Loki. Oh! Ora che sei molto dai, se tu pure criato lei. E che tu pure ce le patrei rasa che non che non tu che vai arrivare che tu pure che mo che. Mi che tu pure che no. No, I question, with the Jesuits, were they men in black? And okay, you have saint, okay, and I like, is saint, Santa, and Satan the same thing? Because in your Christian religion, because this is all like part of what it's about, because the indigenous community are saying about the Catholics of what they did to their people. But in Mexico, and I have the video here, the indigenous woman there, how did I liked what she said. That was the thing. Because I understood, okay? Because, like I said, this is my channel. It goes where spirit wants me to go and then takes me back. Because everything indigenous people say about the spirit, right? You say about the creator, the spirit, what have you. Okay, you have the Holy Spirit and you have the holy of death. Okay, some the holy of death and some the Holy Spirit. I see both. Because the holy of death, it's like in the spirit world, it works with the spirit, and then just different versions of it. And you can laugh all you want. Because it's always been about it's been about land, but a spiritual land, sacred. The earth is actually sacred, so it's a fight over the earth of who gets the earth. So if you go back to the Anunnaki, okay, and you have the four brothers, but you also had the female in there, and those four brothers are actually ganging up on the woman. Because it's sacred land. North America is sacred land. Greenland has the sacred to it. Asia, everywhere in the world, has sacred land. And it's all about the spiritual aspect of the land. People say in Alaska or someplace, you'll say that, the demons were cast into the heaven depths of hell. And some people say that they're in Alaska. So I'm going to ask you again, if white people didn't arrive until the 1600s, who exactly was it that created the white person? But you're not going to sit with that, are you? You are not going to sit with that. And why will you not sit with that? Because of ignorance and having the blame game focuses off of you. And you don't have to take accountability for your own ancestors' here. Just because you're not like that doesn't mean your ancestors are. Of course, your ancestors are going to tell you, oh, we were all great, and this horrible thing happened to us, the same as the Scottish, the British, the English, the French. Because it's always been the war with regards to the French and the English. And people believe that, you say it's not the language. Indians spoke French. But you won't believe that, right? I know I'm all over the place. So I'm looking at her and it's like, people want to say that we did this and we did that. The white man did this and did that. But you are reaping the benefits of it. So as long as you're reaping benefits, you're wearing your gold, your diamonds, your gold, your clothes. I like. I'm trying to comprehend where people's thought process is. You know, because someone will say about somebody in your family being a genius and what have you. They got skipped the grade and what have you. Let's sit So you're saying because somebody went to high school and they could skip a grade or two or something like that, and they went to university and got their bachelor's or doctor's or MBA's or whatever. So, and then you take someone who has a grade 8 education, who went and took paralegal. I didn't get my certificate. The only reason why I didn't get my certificate because I excelled. Everything else that I needed for paralegal, I passed it. Oh, and the typing. Okay. So I get grade 8 education and I had to do the aptitude test in order to be accepted. So as a mature student because they had to see where I was. Well, my business English, I had an 81, but I had a grade 8 education. I was stupid, but somehow I got through and got through paralegal. And I thank my ex-husband because there was a few times that I was going to quit, and he encouraged me not to. Now, when I went there, I didn't study or nothing because I don't know how to study. Because it's not about studying so much. I went by experience because I had a lot of those experiences myself. So experience was my teacher, and spirit was my teacher. Okay, so I did that. That was in 2003-4, and then in 2013, somewhere I went to Dalhousie University in continuing grade and Brad McRae. He's 7 strategies of master negotiators. Right here. Brad McRae. I want some help. The 7 strategies of master leaders and the 7 strategies of master presenters. Okay, so I took 6 courses in total. It cost me $10,000, and I appreciate it because my husband paid for that, and if he hadn't paid for it, then I wouldn't have been able to go. So I went 6 courses. I did them all in 3 months' time. And Brad McRae told me good, because he said that most people it takes 2 years. They do it over 2 years. But I can't. I put it over. So I was doing a lot. So I got the 6 courses, my mediation and negotiation, my leadership development, and my presentation. So that was in 2013. And then, I had my car accident in 2006. So, I was stupid. I had impaired cerebral metabolism, which is not lost going, going through. I mean, I'll take it, yeah, I'll take it. So I found out. I'm going just smashing my head, but, somehow I'm like, okay. But I went through that. I'm using this as an example of somebody who has a great education. So I went through hell over and over again. I even have on my Facebook group, I have video where I was in my apartment building entryway. They had camera, and I was sitting in the store with 2 people. And then all of a sudden, the oxygen, the glucose backed up. And whoosh, I went to say, and as I said, oh, it was right down. And I was like that far from going through a steel glass door. Because it had the steel at the bottom, the frame was steel, and the glass. So, that was 2017. And then in 2018, I had surgery, and they had me in the surgery room, and they were trying to get me up. I was awake. I could hear them. Sure, it healed, and it worked, but I couldn't respond. So, I come out of that screen, 2017 and stuff like that. I had the doctors tell me, oh, we have our nurse said, we have somebody here from telling me I was sick. But I had the documentation. So, I did that. And then in 2019, I went down to Costco and my body smashed. Max Husband tried to catch me, but he was disabled. He was over because he was dead weight. So he had to let me go. So when he let me go, my head smashed. Then my shoulder smashed in the floor, but when it smashed, it crossed over and folded me in half. And then my head flopped sideways violently. My chin smashed, and then my head smashed. I wouldn't go to the hospital because I'd already been, for so long, I had already been treated like a piece of shit. It's anxiety because they were too busy looking at my mental health. They even had in my file that at the age of 14. I'm saying this is what the system does with regards to lying about things and nobody looking to the truth. So I wouldn't go. I was going to the gym and everything like that, but it was like it was really great because it wasn't until this year, sorry, last year, that I realized that what actually happened to me was my collarbone got snapped. And that's why I was spitting up blood. That's why I was having pain all over my spine and in my guts and everything. They even did EKGs, or sorry, EKK, or a cardiogram. EKG. Yeah, EKG is right. And when I ran one time for EKG, all of a sudden, it was like the machine acted like I had flutter. And the doctor was confused and he even went and started changing the stuff to see what was going on. But in 2019, they used two EKG machines to check my heart. The first one they tried, well, first turn, got nothing. No reading. Second, no reading. Third, no reading. Fourth, no reading. Fifth, no reading. Oh, well, yeah, let's do the machine. We'll go get another machine. So we went and got another machine for that. And wait a minute. Once, no reading. Second, no reading. Third, no reading. Fourth, no reading. Fifth, no reading. Oh, well, nowhere from there, right? So that's why, you know, I was going to the hospital. And I even went to another province twice because I went to New Brunswick and I went to Alberta to try and find out. I had been going to Alberta since my car accident to try and find out. Okay, this is what the stigmatas do. This is what the lack of truth does. It gets people hurt. It gets people fighting with them. So, when this was going on, before I died, at home on the couch, I got my ex-husband to see what he did. And they treated me the same way there. And it felt like my skin was on fire. So then I come home, and it was right around the 21st of December. I had been experiencing a lot of stuff prior to that. And I was seeing my mom, and I was seeing a little blonde girl kept running in the night. That was impossible. And at times, like I'd be laying on my bed, but it'd feel like I was falling off my bed, or it felt like I was just sinking into the bed. And when they were all coming in, and I hollered, "Get this off bed." And my nephew, he was like, "Who are you talking to?" Because my nephew was the one that came over a lot. He wanted to pay for me to get to the room so that I could find out what was going on because it was all from the car accident. So I was laying on top of my bed, inside, squashing my foot. It was like I was suffocating and everything was crazy. So I would be going like that. Like even I had at that time because when I went through that 2017 class in Brown, they gave me home care, and my home care people were trying to get me to go to the hospital. They're saying like you're in the hospital, and I told them no, like they keep doing this, and this was after I went down to Costco. So okay, so I was going through that. I was still going through my daily life routine, what have you, trying as best as I could, trying to hide it all. So that night, like that day, I was just laying on the couch, and I laid on the couch, and I didn't get back up until after I died. I felt myself, this is the spirit part of it. I could feel myself slipping away. It was what I perceived it to be. What was happening is my organs were shutting down, and it would have been cystis or that blood poisoning because of what happened in my collarbone. So my organs were failing, and I could feel in my spirit everything trying to leave me, and I was trying to catch it. And then I lay on the couch, and I couldn't fight no more. I could hear, but I could do nothing. I could feel myself going into shock. At that point, I would have been, you could have said, seen that it would have been. So I felt myself going into shock. And I seen in the distance a white light. Just, it was like it's coming closer. Then it went to three, six, and then nine, and then it went to massive light. But Spirit had to tell me. They had to tell me. So I had to, I let go. But when I was back, there was a little girl about 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. She was wearing a long, over fashioned dress. It was blue. Because, you say about the woman that, like, the red dress, there was actually one in the blue dress too. One was killed and one ran for their life because they witnessed. So when I was looking, she was a little girl about 11 or 12, and she had a long, old-fashioned blue dress on, and she had long, looked like long black hair or really dark brown hair, but long hair. And she was very gray in color, so she had already passed. And she had, and when it was like she's there, but it started like when I commented stuff, and all of a sudden she just like went really freaky and and prior to that, my youngest son, his girlfriend, lived next door. And I was sitting in my apartment watching TV, and all of a sudden I felt it was like I felt a spirit. Something come from the corner of my apartment, straight down, right through me. And when it came right through me, I panicked. And I started almost hyperventilating. So I got somebody to go get my son. And then he brought his girlfriend over, and she hugged me because it was like, because I had the experience from '99, and I was like, oh shit. So then I contacted a medium. The medium told me that a grumpy old man attached himself to me, and when my mother came on, we told her that everything was going to be okay. And then I died. And when I seen her, it was like whatever it had, it was like I knew something bad had just happened to me. Something really fucked up had just happened to me. Because when that happened, I just jumped right out off the couch. And prior to that, there was a guy that I would go to the bar, right? Because I didn't want to be alone. Wanted to be around people. And I kept getting this guy to take my arm and try to pull it. It was like I was trying to pull it back into socket. So by doing that, I was just making it worse. And when I went down at Costco, not only did I fold myself in half, but I couldn't even move my head up. So 2019, right around the solstice passed, right around December 21st, give or take a few days. Well, not give or take a few days, but like 21st or just before. So I was going out and like with a brain injury, your behavior changes. You can't comprehend, like you can't put two and two together. Okay. So you make a lot of choices that you wouldn't really make. Or, you just wouldn't make sense to people. Or, people would side with the government. Okay? The system part. Okay, your governance. Because this type of stuff, it doesn't choose color, people do. If this young woman is saying about white people, and we never came to the 1600s, how exactly does that work? So, I went through that. I got back from Alberta, and I started looking into a lot of weird shit started happening. Spirit world started saying, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, because if you do, they will see you. It's much like the movie They Live, or the Matrix. Like, they're just like they're they're on autopilot, and Mr. Smith jumps in. So let's see with that. Okay, so when I come back, I was doing all kinds of research. I had things written down and everything, and I was going through the spirit world on both the, like you say, the light and the dark, or the light and the shadow. I was going through it all, and they told me burn this stuff, get rid of it, don't want anybody catching me with it, because what I ended up doing the night of the supermoon of 2020 in April, just right around Easter time, I was experiencing weird things, and what have you. And I was messaging on Facebook with somebody I knew, and I told them that somebody was watching of the Indian culture, native culture, whether East Indian or I don't care. I'm saying what the parents they had. And they were hanging out, and it was really strange because one would go, the other would come. The Jesuits, much like the Men in Black. Goretano. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I messaged this person and I said, and I was telling them about the experience I was having. And I said, don't worry about it. You will know what to do. So I was there, and all of a sudden, from the pits of my stomach, it comes up through, and just like, and really loud, and it just went on. And it was like something coming out. It was like Pandora's box had just went poof. Okay. So I went through that, and then it was like body was like this. That before that happening, my nephew had been over, okay, and he had brought me this image, this picture with the archangels and what have you, and different things on it. So I took it and I started reading it. Well, the shadows didn't like that. So I read some names. And see, just before I died, I was laying next to my ex-husband because I needed to be close to someone, just laying next to someone. And he had a black t-shirt on, and I was seeing the appears with fireworks, and it was like, what you see with the drones and stuff, so all the cartoon figures and what have you. I seen that on his shirt. It was like I was looking into outer space. And then all of a sudden, in rainbow colors, all of the colors, the word SOS come up, so I said SOS out loud. And then there's the night of the supermoon of 2020, April 7th, 8th, 2020. And go there. I don't care. Go try it. I didn't do that. I was in the spirit world. So I was there, and my nephew was there, and I was reading it, and I couldn't read it anymore because it was much like 99, trying to recite something. So I ended up, it was like I laid down, and I laid in a formation where I was straight, and spirit had me like that. And my nephew, he was like, look, if any freaking thing you should start, don't believe in. So he laughed, But I knew something was about, I could feel it. Because the night prior to that, I was laying in my bed and I was moving my arms and I was saying words, saying what I wanted, like what I wanted to say. And all of a sudden, what ended up happening was different forms of entities, beings, what have you, say, Lucifer, go home to Father. Father's not there. Okay. And I could literally, I could actually feel someone knelt by my bed. Okay? People say, it's a you know, how to be delulu because I know what I experienced. And it wasn't a self life. It was. So the next day, this is when I laid down in front of my nephew, and I was watching people like out the window very close, and what have you. But people say, "Well, that's paranoid." No, it wasn't paranoid. So that night, what ended up happening is I could feel it. It was like that like the soul, right? Like yes, I heard dark night of the soul. Yes, like the dark night of the soul, but very dark, dark. And I was laying there, and I could feel my body after I did the out. I could feel my body. And it started like moving and what happened. And I thought, no, okay, I gotta like, make this. I have to get off the floor. And then I got off the floor, and I could feel it even more. So it's like from the soul, right? I could feel it more. And I was like, no, shit, I can't do this because, if everything happens and, I'm going to be smashing. So I would, because I knew I was going to come back. Okay. The weird thing was my dogs were out. I ended up putting my dogs on the floor. And my cat was up in bed. And what ended up happening was it was just like, like that, going after my cat, like it was trying to fucking freak it out. Okay. So now it was like it had, my head, this hand was like just numb, and this hand was trying to rip me apart from ripping my heart out to ripping my rib out. Like I mean, I was like my hand was really doing. People would say it was like, but it was actually spiritual. And then it was like taking my throat and trying to rip my throat out, trying to twist my head off, gouge my eyes using my own hand to gouge my eyes. And when I went for my exorcism in 1999, what ended up happening there was it used this hand, the same hand, and just grabbed on. And it took and my mom and the guy that was there with us, they both took both of their hands and they tried pulling my arm off. And they could not pull my arm off. The pastor was doing its thing, speaking in different tongues, and, and it was like that. And then my mom was like, "Come on, Terry, you've got to fight it." And then all of a sudden, they were able to pull it off, and I was coughing like I had been, like and the sounds that were coming out of me, the profanity. Okay, so now we're going to go back because this was what was happening that night. Only I had nobody there to hold me or help me except the spirit. So this was trying to rip me apart, but spirit took me It was like out of my body into a protective area. And what was coming out of my mouth was, give her back, we're taking her with us, and give her back to us, and we're taking her. And it was like really snarly, really fucking demonic. And then all of a sudden, spiritual, with this hand, and just took and grabbed the energy in my body and started moving, and then torquing, squeezing the left side of my body was like trying to take it with a tissue, like a piece of paper. I could feel that. I could feel it all. But when I was tearing apart, it wasn't hurting because I was I was coming back. And that was my spirit. So it was like taking it and crumple it like a piece of paper. My internal organs and just all the muscles in my body, like it was, and it was saying, "You're trying to make us feel fucking human," because demons cannot feel human pain is too much for them. So how about you? That's why they don't want you to have your emotions. That's why they want to suppress you with regards to your emotions, because it keeps you in a pain state. Okay, whether you perceive the demons as demons, or whether you perceive them as part of the matrix, or people will say it's like, but it's actually the spiritual aspect. You say the shadows. Well, the shadows never want to see themselves. So what will they do? They try to suppress and crush, and, rip the hearts out and do whatever they had to do. They call it sacrifice, right? But it was, what are you doing? Try to make us feel pain. It was very demonic, like I said. And then all of a sudden, I went like that, and as I went like that, I said, "Oh, God help me." And at the moment I hollered, "God help me," that's when I got the flash between the lookers. I don't know if it came out of me or if it was coming from the sky. Yes. I'm going to go for it, but I'm going to come back in. Okay? They have to do something different. So I'm going to go for it, and I don't have long to do. Okay, it's 7:30 now, and I'll come back in and continue on from here. If you didn't catch it, you can go on my YouTube channel, Spirit Teachings for Itself. I believe it's the same profile picture as what I have on my TikTok here. And, watch the whole thing. But I will be back.